In this video, we're going to learn about binding to HTTP headers. Binding to HTTP headers is slightly different from binding to query strings or binding to root values. The difference is that you will have to use explicit binding. Okay? So we talk about binding to query string here. You don't have to specify from query. You can just delete it and make sure that the endpoint handler parameter name is the same as the query string parameter name. Or if it comes from the root value, then make sure that this parameter name corresponds to the root parameter name. Then you don't have to use explicit binding. Now here in HTTP headers, if you want to pass any information from HTTP header to the endpoint handler parameter here, you will have to use explicit binding. So let's give it a try here. Let's change this to ID. And then make it non-optional, right? It's required. And let's just delete this. Let's simplify the code. We don't have to always check whether it's there or not because ID is required. Now let's change this one to ID and that's it. Okay, here, if we want to bind from the HTTP headers to the endpoint handler like this, then we have to specify header. And now if we want to try it, we cannot just use browser because in browser you cannot specify a header. So let's actually use Postman. All right, our Postman is running. Make sure the port number still corresponds to each other. We have, let's run it. And we see the port number 5291. And in Postman, we have 5291. And this one goes to employees. And we need to specify some headers. So let's go to headers. And let's go over here. The header, again, the name has to correspond, right? So in this case, the key here has to correspond to the parameter name here. And then we specify, let's say number 3. And now if we send, we're going to get the correct response back, which is person number 3, right? Employee number 3. Now, what if I change the ID to identity? Now, if I send it, I'm going to get a bad request, which is 400, right? It should be 400 bad request as per normal. Now, how do we fix that problem? You already know that. We can specify the name here. We can say name is identity. This has to correspond to the key of the header. And if we run it this way, then we have no problem again. Let's go to Postman. Okay, so this key identity corresponds to the name here. Then we can use any parameter name as, and then click on send button, we get the correct employee back. We can change this one to 1, for example, and we can test again. And you can see we get John Doe, which is the first employee. Okay, so this is the difference. You can see that the difference here, we have to, in this case, use from header, and then everything else is the same as binding to query string or binding to root value. And that's everything I want to talk about in this video. Any questions, please let me know. If not, I will see you in the next one.